In many ways, Joe Biden is certainly a gentleman compared to Donald Trump. Donald Trump, we must remember, he went after Barack Obama saying he wasn't even an American. Imagine the misogynist and racist stuff he's going to come with Kamala Harris, and I think she's prepared for that. A week ago when I talked to President Biden, and I was saying at all costs we must protect his legacy and what he began, because it's not finished in terms of voting rights, women's rights, and other things. He was dug in. He was going to fight to the end. And maybe it was his commitment to those principles that he said, in order to best preserve that and maintain that, I'm going to step back. And I think that the country, Republican and Democrat, owes him a real applause, because I think he showed that he has commitments bigger than himself, which is rare in politics. What he did took real courage, and what he's done for this country, he should have everyone's gratitude.
Yeah, you mentioned Donald Trump, Mika. Donald Trump has been melting down on social media in the 12 hours since clearly his preferred candidate was President Biden.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the new psyop from the mainstream liberal media, which is that Trump and J.D. Vance and Republicans are scared of Kamala Harris. Yes, that is the propaganda being pushed in the media now, that Trump is afraid of Kamala Harris. Cackling Kamala. Yeah, this is what they're putting out here, folks. This is what they're telling people, okay? And the reason why is because Trump and Republicans are rightfully and smartly calling out the Democrats and their massive hypocrisy on this idea that they are the party of democracy, when it has become clear and obvious that the Democrats are not the party of democracy after staging a coup against Joe Biden and much more leading up to that. But that's the latest anti-democratic move the Democrats have engaged in. And also on top of that, Trump is calling out the fact that, hey, we should not have to debate on ABC since you guys staged a coup against your candidate at the last minute, because I agreed to those rules thinking that I would be debating Joe Biden, which, I mean, these rules were set up in favor of Joe Biden, and Trump destroyed Joe Biden, or Biden really kind of destroyed itself. But regardless, under rules that were set up in Joe Biden's favor, Joe Biden campaign was destroyed. So now you guys are switching them out. I don't have to agree to doing that debate. I actually believe that the debate should be held on Fox News. And you have the mainstream liberal media calling Trump a punk, saying that he's going to pull out of the debate with Kamala Harris because he's saying that he doesn't want to do debates that were agreed to before this current matchup was set.
I mean, if he does not try to get out of the debates, and you know, Donald Trump and I both come from New York. In Brooklyn, we call him a punk in the streets. I don't think he wants to debate Kamala Harris, because
I think he'll be afraid to debate.
Oh, he's a political punk. There's no doubt about it.
Really?
And I think that if his friend was promoting the bout, Don King, it would be the prosecutor versus the felon. That's how you would promote it.
Yeah. So what is happening on the left, guys, is that they are deflecting from the real conversation that we should be having about what the Democrats just did to their democratically elected primary nominee, right? But they don't want to have that conversation, which is what Trump and Republicans keep bringing up, which is that, hey, the Democratic Party isn't very democratic, right? You see that, right? Is that something that the mainstream liberal media might want to talk about, since they've been talking about democracy for the last 3 or 4 years? All of a sudden, when Democrats stage a coup against Joe Biden, all of a sudden, oh, we really don't want to talk about that anymore. In fact, if you talk about that, if you bring that up, that means you are scared, right? You are scared of Kamala Harris, which is the argument that Stephen A. Smith is going to make on his show, which is that Trump and J.D. Vance are running scared from Kamala because they are rightfully calling out the fact that, hey, this is kind of not fair. We spent a lot of money and resources fighting Joe Biden, and just because Joe Biden is losing, Democrats switched him out at the last minute by quite literally rigging their primary. Like that is what they just did. Like that is like undisputable, right? They rigged their primary, removing Joe Biden, making him step down as nominee and putting in Kamala Harris. Bringing that up apparently means that you're scared, according to Stephen A. Smith, and one of the most low IQ takes that I think I have ever heard. But let's get into it.
I got to admit,
I'm not talking about the Republican Party. I'm just talking about what's going on right now in terms of what Donald Trump is doing. These folks are getting on my nerves because we got to get to Donald Trump and new running mate J.D. Vance. Both men hit the campaign trail this weekend, Saturday to be exact, in Grand Rapids, Michigan. During a rally, Trump asked the crowd who they prefer he run against. Kamala Harris was met with boos, while then incumbent Joe Biden was cheered by the crowd. The next day, Sunday, that is, Joe Biden withdrew from his re-election campaign because basically donors on the Democratic side, the funds were drying up. They were seeing to it. They were letting them know, we ain't going to support the party if you're going to continue to run because we know you can't beat them.
Now, apparently, Stephen A. Smith doesn't have a problem with that, right? Because the take here should actually be much deeper. Stephen A. Smith really should be asking the question of, is that right? Right? Is that something we should be cheering on in this country? Rich donors overthrowing the will of the people. That sounds like an oligarchy, right? That's what that sounds like. But more specifically, more accurately, really, that would be a plutocracy. Is this something that we should be cheering on, right? Did Stephen A. Smith all of a sudden just forget about how democracy is supposed to be so important, right? Because again, this is the same guy. If you listen to him talk, he said, well, I can't vote for Trump because I think he's going to cause a civil war, right? Just like Charlemagne the God, he buys into the whole democracy talking points that the Democrats put out there about how voting for them saves democracy. But yet, in their own party, they're not only not democratic, they are anti-democratic. In fact, they are afraid of democracy, right? They're afraid of it. Every election that Democrats have lost since George Bush, they have tried to challenge it, right? They've tried to challenge it in Congress and in the courts. In 2016, 2020, and in the 2024 Democrat primary, we all know that they facilitated things in a way that made it much easier for their candidate to win. Hillary in 2016, Joe Biden in 2020, Joe Biden in 2024. This is not a conspiracy. This is something that Democrats have openly admitted to on air in the wake of the campaign to have Joe Biden removed. And that was used as justification for having Joe Biden removed. Which is that, well, we did it before, right? I mean, look, we already made the primaries very favorable towards Joe Biden, okay? And that was done by elitists, right? Joe Biden was chosen by the elites. So the elites have the right to take him out, right? This is how they justified it. But yet, for whatever reason, I'm not sure why there's not a bigger conversation about what the Democrats just did in front of our eyes. They just took the mask off and showed us that, yeah, we actually don't believe in democracy at all. There is no democracy in the Democrat Party. They're showing you that. It's out loud in your face. But again, there's not nearly enough conversation on it from the same people who lectured us for the past 4 years about the importance of protecting democracy. It tells you everything you need to know about the so-called democracy that they want. It's just Democrat power and control. That's the only way to make sense of it, right? That's the only way it doesn't contradict itself, is when you actually know what they mean, which is power and control. Stephen A. Smith, apparently he doesn't understand that, right? He can't get to that point, right? This is a very two-dimensional take for something that is much deeper than what he's saying, right? He's getting out of it, well, Trump's scared, right? No, that's not actually what they're getting at here.
Because the slippage that you've shown is not good enough. So we got to put it in the hands of somebody younger, more vibrant, more ready to go. And we're not engaging in ageism here. We ain't talking about folks based on their age. We're talking about Joe Biden. I'll repeat. We know of other folks in their 80s that are sharper than he appears. But we wish him the best. We're not insulting our president. We're just acknowledging fact. Here's another fact. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are running scared. And Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, he's running scared too. What's up with all of this stuff about how legal action may be taken because Biden decided to drop out of the race? Wait a minute. When he took the presidency, initially he alluded to himself being a one-term president, that he was going to be a stopgap to pave the way for a younger generation. He's under no obligation to run for re-election.
See, but again, here's the problem, Stephen A. This is what you don't understand, right? Because you don't really understand politics. Joe Biden did not willingly step down. He was forced out, okay? The Democrat Party said, we are not going to support you if you remain in the race. They forced him out. He did not willingly step down. They guaranteed that, hey, you're going to lose. We're going to make you lose if you don't step down. That is not Joe Biden deciding, oh, well, I'm going to walk away, right? And I'm going to let you know about it ahead of time so that, hey, it can be a fair election, right? Where, I don't have my opponent spending millions of dollars campaigning against somebody that he's not going to be running against, which is what the Democrats did. That's the whole point that's being brought up here. But again, Stephen A. is over his head. He don't get it. He don't understand it. He's getting the lowest IQ takeaway. He's coming to the lowest IQ conclusion from Republicans continuously bringing up a point that a lot of people should really think about, right? Take a step back and consider what the Democrats just did in their own party and whether or not that actually is good for the country, right? I'm just saying, a lot of people are not thinking deeply enough about what just happened in front of our faces, what has just been revealed to the public about our so-called democracy. That at least in the Democrat Party, the will of the voters is a farce, right? It's an illusion, okay, of democracy. Hey, in the Republican Party, the elites wanted to get rid of Trump in 2016, right? They definitely didn't want him to be nominee, but guess what? At the very least, in the Republican Party, there is actually democracy. And that's why it's so ironic that people are talking about, hey, you need to vote for Democrats to save democracy, because if Republicans win, they're going to destroy democracy, right? Which again makes zero sense whatsoever, since the Democrat Party is not democratic and the Republican Party is democratic, right? They can't overthrow Trump even though they want to, right? A lot of them do. They do want to overthrow Trump, but they can't because Trump was chosen by the people. The people have a choice in the Republican Party. You don't have a choice in the Democrat Party, and they just showed you that.
And the donors who contributed to the Democratic Party, it was to Biden and Harris, not just Biden.
Again, another silly talking point, right? I don't understand how this man does not understand there's a difference between giving money to Biden Harris versus Harris and somebody else, right? Biden was at the top of the ticket. Now, one thing, you have an argument if it was Harris Biden and Biden dropped off the ticket, right? And Kamala had to get a new vice president. Okay, you would have a point. But no. We're talking about the top of the ticket. The person actually calling the shots, the commander-in-chief, has been replaced by somebody that is not the commander-in-chief, right? So again, there's a difference. So people didn't donate to Kamala and somebody else, right? That's not what happened. So again, pay attention to Stephen A. Smith's perspective here. He's looking at it from the perspective of the donors, right? The money interest. He hasn't said anything about the will of the people yet. Tells you everything you need to know about where his mind is at, what he's saying out loud, but he's too stupid to realize what he actually is really saying out loud.
So what's the problem with her running now? That's number two. Number three, Donald Trump. I know you ain't trying to engage in, dare I say, lawfare, are you? I know you're not trying to do that. Wasn't it you that was on stage saying that the Democrats were engaging in lawfare because they weren't confident they could beat you straight up in an election? Kamala Harris ain't bringing up insurrection. She ain't bringing up the votes in Georgia. She might bring it up to make an argument against you from a character standpoint. She might bring up the 34 felony convictions, but her objective and what she tweeted out, she's saying, yo, Donald Trump, I'm going to beat you. I can beat you. Ain't that what you wanted?
Okay, so again, Stephen A. Smith just clearly does not understand that there's a difference between engaging in lawfare for the purpose of removing somebody from the ballot because you believe that they committed an insurrection, even though they have not been found guilty of an insurrection, right? Democrats wanted to remove Trump for a crime he was not found guilty of committing, right? Again, that is different than Republicans saying, well, what Kamala and Joe Biden are doing, the Democrat Party's doing, is not fair because at the last minute, they are switching out Joe Biden for Kamala Harris when Joe Biden's already on the ballot, right? And they're only doing it because Joe Biden is losing, okay? This is the precedent that Democrats have set. They're saying, well, if our candidate is losing, we could just switch him out at the last minute and go with somebody else. That's what they're doing, right? That's what they're doing. So Republicans are responding to that and saying, no, you can't do that. You just can't switch out your candidate after the people elected your candidate in your primary that, you finagled, by the way, but still, they still voted for this guy. You're subverting the will of the people. That's exactly what's happening. And Republicans are saying, no, we're not going to just let you do that, right, without a challenge, because Joe Biden's already on the ballot. So you got to keep him on the ballot. That's who the voters wanted. That's who they voted for, to be on the ballot for the Democrat Party. Again, Stephen A. believes that there's some equivalency between that and what Democrats tried to do to Trump. Again, this is silly, right? This is silly.
You said that's what you wanted. Now, here's Donald Trump with this statement here. Check this out. So, we are forced to spend time and money on fighting crooked Joe Biden. He posed badly after having a terrible debate and quits the race. Now we have to start all over again. Shouldn't the Republican Party be reimbursed for fraud in that everybody around Joe, including his doctors and the fake news media, knew he was not capable of running for or being president? Just asking. Well, listen to the answer from your boy Stephen A. Anybody trying to hear that? You've been talking about Kamala Harris like you would rake her through the coals.
Well, I think he will, ultimately. But again, the point here, Stephen A., is not that he's scared. That's your low IQ takeaway. The point that he's bringing up is the fact that, these people just made us waste all these campaign resources to go against somebody that they knew was not going to be their candidate, right? And they switched him out at the last minute, which again means that we were campaigning against somebody that they had no intent of actually making a nominee. And not only did they replace him at the last minute, but they did it undemocratically, okay? Party elites did that. Again, the takeaway here shouldn't be that Trump is scared. The takeaway should be, well, does Trump have a point, right? Shouldn't we be talking about what the Democrat Party just did and how undemocratic that is? Is that something that we should be supporting in our country? Backdoor deals being made by party elitists on who's going to be the nominee, who's going to run the country, and what is supposed to be a democratic process. But again, you actually have to care about democracy from a principled perspective, right? Or the will of the people. You would actually have to give a damn about that in order to bring that up. But clearly, the liberal media, Democrats, Stephen A. Smith, people like they don't care, right? They don't care about this thing that they lectured us about for the last 4 years straight. That's what really blows my mind about this take. I really don't understand it.
Like you would beat her. Suddenly, we're not talking about these lawsuits against you, civil or criminal. What we're talking about now is her going up against you one-on-one for the presidency of the United States. I thought this was what you wanted. So I don't want to hear from J.D. Vance. I don't want to hear from Mike Johnson. I don't want to hear from conservative pundits. I don't want to hear about the legal stuff now. This is what you wanted. This is what we all should want.
No, I do not want this, right? I don't want a country where wealthy elite are making backdoor deals, choosing who can be the candidate for the United States president, right? Just subverting the will of the people. No, I do not want that. I'm sorry, right? I'm not pro-cooing a democratically elected party nominee because you're losing. No, I'm not pro that, right? I'm not for that, whatever that is.
I want to see Kamala Harris go up against Donald Trump. I want to see her ideas for the country versus his ideas for the country.
Well, I mean, you're not really going to see that because they're going to make it about identity politics. They're going to make it about sexism, racism, bigotry. They don't want to talk about the ideas or the policies because Kamala's going to lose on that. I mean, she's going to lose regardless. But again, you're not going to get what you're asking for, Stephen A.
I want to see her talking about her record against him talking about his record. I want to see you going toe-to-toe against one another. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to see. This is what you said you wanted. So when you bring up potential lawsuits, that's lawfare. That's deviating from what you said the Democrats were doing just because they couldn't beat you fair and square. If you want to bring up lawfare, is it because you scared you're going to lose to Kamala Harris? I'm just asking. I'm just asking. That's what you said. You just asking. I'm just asking. Here's another quote from the real Donald Trump. The Democrats pick a candidate, crooked Joe Biden. He loses the debate badly, then panics and makes mistake after mistake. Is told he can't win and decide they will pick another candidate, probably Harris. They stole a race from Biden after he won it in the primaries. First, these people are the real threat to democracy. Okay. Ain't nothing wrong with that tweet. You're entitled to your feelings. You're entitled to express your thoughts. Just don't go the legal route.
Well, it's true. And you're saying don't go the legal route, but again, what they did was actually subvert the will of the people. So why would you not go the legal route? Are you saying that, well, you should be fine with this? Because I don't think that anybody that is supposed to be for saving democracy should be okay with what the Democrats just did. Not only do they not want to talk about it, they want to say that you're scared if you talk about it. They want you to not do anything about it. Oh, don't try to keep Joe Biden on the ballot. Don't do that. I agree with what you're saying. I can't dispute what you're saying, the facts, because you're right. Democrats did overthrow democracy in their own party, but just don't do anything about it and don't talk about it, right? This is what they want. This is what Stephen A. Smith is advocating for. This is what the rest of the mainstream liberal media is advocating for. This is what they're saying. Instead of engaging in the actual conversation. Because again, the rabbit hole is so much deeper when you get into that conversation. And that conversation is going to wake a lot of people up about what's actually happening in this country and how the people really don't have a say, much of a say in what happens in this country at all. It's all an illusion, okay? It's a reality show. They're just actors, right? A lot of these people, that's what they are. They're just playing the game. And again, people think that they have a say in what happens, but you really don't, right? You really don't. That's why this conversation leads, which is why they don't want to have that conversation. They want to pull the wool over your eyes and point the finger at you as if you're the bad guy. You're wrong for bringing up what we just witnessed, which was Democrats subvert the will of the people in their own party. And you're the bad guy. You're scared if you want to talk about that, if you want to have a conversation about that. Amazing. It really is.
Because by going that route, you're engaging in lawfare. And according to you, that's what the Dems were doing because they couldn't beat you fair and square.
Again, this is a false equivalency that can only come from somebody that is looking at this from a one-dimensional perspective, right? That is what Stephen A. Smith is doing, okay? Because he's creating this false equivalency that the lawfare that the Democrats did to Trump is somehow equal to the lawfare that the Republicans are threatening to engage in because Democrats actually really subverted the will of their people, right? Again, there's rules around these things. Democrats allegedly have broken the rules. So these are things that Republicans are doing in order to fix that. Democrats tried to stop Trump from becoming president by punishing him for a crime he was not found guilty of committing, and also weaponizing the government to bring frivolous lawsuits against him so that he will be forced to use his campaign cash to defend himself in court. Again, two completely, totally different things. But Stephen A. Smith thinks that they're the same, right? Again, it's mind-boggling.
In an election, you might be right. Or then again, you might not. Let's find out. Let's find out. Straight up, you against her. Getting a little scared now? I'm just asking.
Wow.
I'm just asking. I don't know. But bringing up all of this legal stuff with Mike Jackson and Mike Johnson, rather, and J.D. Vance, it sounds scared. Y'all sound scared. What y'all doing being scared of Kamala Harris for? What's up with that? Scared of the ladies now? You scared of the vice president, huh? That's why the crowd was cheering for Joe Biden. You know there was some slippage. He was an easy opponent. You're confirming it's gotten a little bit tougher now, haven't you? Just asking.
This guy's a clown, bro. I mean, this is a clown take if I've ever seen one. But I mean, hey, this is what they're going to say. They don't want to have a real conversation about what Democrats just did. All I know is that I don't want to hear any of these people talking about how they're voting to save democracy, okay? Because, yeah, we clearly see that Democrats are not the party of democracy at all. And this whole talking point about, oh, Trump's scared, right? Because they actually really are trying to prevent Democrats from subverting the will of the people is a deflection from that conversation that they really don't want to have, right? That is what Stephen A. Smith is doing here. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.